Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I am your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, when it comes to the Middle Eastern crisis, so far international system seems failing. World clearly divided into two blocks. One is supporting an independent and sovereign state of Palestine, and others, especially the Western countries, are with occupier, suppressor, oppressor, apartheid and illegitimate state of Israel. Unfortunately, Israel's genocidal war continues. From ethnic cleansing, widespread destruction and war crimes in Gaza, illegal settlements, slow genocide and annexation in West Bank, to the horrific bombings and land invasion in Lebanon. Israel's brutality is more than 1 year. At least killed over 42,847 innocent Palestinians and over 100,000 innocent injured. This is alone in Gaza, while according to the Lebanese Ministry of Health, 2,400 innocent Lebanese already killed, while 1.3 million are displaced internally. This ongoing conflict in Middle East is escalating. International concerns are growing. Despite UN appeals and widespread international condemnations, Israel's violence persists. We will try to explore the complexities of this Middle Eastern conflict, the role of global and regional powers, and the prospects of peace. To discuss this very important topic, we have in our studios HAMZA AMIR KHALIL. He is the international relations and hybrid warfare expert. Most welcome to you, Ahmad. Thank you very much. And with him, Ali HAMZA. He is assistant research associate at Islamabad Policy Research Institute, IPRI. Most welcome to you, Ali. Thank you very much for joining us. And online joining us, Dr. SAIRA NAWAZ ABBASI. She is a Middle Eastern affairs expert. Most welcome to you, ma'am. Thank you very much for your precious time. My first question to you, HAMZA, that do you think that there would be any end to this ongoing Israel's genocidal war? These war crimes, atrocities and inhuman-like behavior in Palestine, especially in Gaza. And its bloody campaign in Lebanon, as United Nations also appealed, the international community is appealing to end the conflict, or this will continue as because of the big powers' outright support to the illegitimate state of Israel and Netanyahu regime and its occupied forces. While today's attack in Syria as well, that suggests that Israel wants an escalation. What's your thoughts?
The short answer is no. But because we know that the Israel's genocide is actually being backed by the Western countries. The United States of America is providing 68% of arms and ammunition which Israel is using inside Gaza and Lebanon. Germany, which is part of EU, is providing 30% of the ammunition and 2% is being supplied by United Kingdom. We know that one of the countries of EU, France, asked for an arms embargo on Israel, and the retaliation from Israel was, shame on you. So this basically shows us that Israel feels impunity. You know, even they even banned the entrance.
This is all going on a bit. No one is going to stop Israel right now.
Right now, 43,000 Palestinians, as you already told, have been killed. More than 1 lakh are injured, and most of them are women and children. United Nations has declared a catastrophic situation in Gaza. There is food shortage, there is water shortage, there is basic necessities which are required for basic livelihood. Now, from what I see,
many humanitarian workers and the doctors and the journalists, they were all killed in Gaza already.
Yes, they were killed. Doctors were killed. Now, from what I see, its objective is much more than defeating the resistance in Palestine and Lebanon. From what I am seeing, that they are occupying more and more territory, and they are not going
This
to
is not
retreat.
only escalating, the conflict is not only escalating, but also the expansionist design of the Israelis there.
Yes,
So
exactly.
you are absolutely right on that. Ali, despite of several countries supporting the independent state of Palestine in Middle East as the only long-lasting solution in the region, but unfortunately, due to the Western, particularly the United States, dual standards and blind support to Israel has ruined the peace expectations overall. What could be done in such a scenario? Do you think that China and Russia could play their role in bringing peace in Middle East, because they have also the stakes in the region?
It is ironical that the West and the United States, they have always claimed to be the flag bearers of the two-state solution. But the United States particularly, it has rarely walked the talk. And we see that the Israeli Knesset, it passed a resolution that they won't accept any Palestinian state because it is a threat to the national security of Israel. And this was a blatant violation of UNSC resolutions and the international consensus we have on this two-state solution. But there was no condemnation from the United States and all. So I do not expect, and I do not see in the future, that any solution to this conflict will be United States-led. China, on the other hand, it has operated very differently in the Middle Eastern region, and it has manifested that it wants a peaceful resolution in the region. And most importantly, because China is free of the historical baggage the United States has of instigating wars in the region and causing people to suffer. So we see that Chinese example is very different from the American example, how they facilitated and mediated the rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran as well. Well, it is true that they do not have any leverage on Israel. So I cannot say that how are they going to do this. But when we look forward to a peaceful world, and by implication peaceful Middle East, we expect that this would be led by China. And it is not unrealistic to expect any diplomatic feat by them in which they managed to
so
bring
do you
all
think
the
any role from Russia to play in the Middle
Russian
Eastern
role
crisis?
would be
Because
very important.
they have lots of leverage in the region as well.
The Russian role is very important in the region, and Russia has acted very responsibly in terms of when there was contention between Iran and Israel, how they exercised their influence over Iran, and they did not act to just aggravate the situation. They have been acting very responsibly. So we see that on one side, there are two very responsible actors, whatever their international role on the other side is, but they have acted very responsibly in the Middle East. But on the other side, the other actor, the Western-backed Israeli Zionist regime, it has acted very irresponsibly.
You are absolutely right, but unfortunately the Western countries have some other designs. When Dr. SAIRA, when we are talking about the US law and its section 620I of the US Foreign Assistance Act that oversees the country's provision of the foreign aid, clearly depicts that no assistance shall be furnished under this act or the Arms Exports Control Act to any country when it is made known to the President that the government of such country prohibits or otherwise restricts, directly or indirectly, the transport or delivery of the humanitarian assistance. But instead of triggering the law and cut the arms supplies, United States administration continued its every assistance to Israel and violating its own law of the land. So what to expect from United States to have peace in the Middle East?
Well, the US decision to continue providing assistance to Israel despite its section 6201 of the US Foreign Assistance Act, that raises important legal and ethical questions about the application of its own laws. However, US policy often prioritized strategic alliances and geopolitical interest, especially in the regions of high strategic importance, like the Middle Eastern region. The US consider Israel as a crucial partner in ensuring the stability in the region, especially for countering Iran and addressing other security concerns. So as a result, the geopolitical interest often supersede the strict legal interpretations when it comes to the foreign aid or foreign affairs or policy. So the laws such as Section 6201 may be selectively enforced based on national interest rather than consistently applied. So it also shows that in international relations, interest always prevails over morality and law.
Dr. Saira, how do you see the peace efforts by the Qatar, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and to some extent to the United States to bring Israel at the negotiating table, as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the Jordanian King Abdullah met Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia? Blinken said it's time to end the Gaza conflict, urged Israel to avoid further escalation with Iran. But Netanyahu intends to stay in power, refusing to end its brutal military offensive in Gaza and Lebanon. How do you see when Joe Biden says something else and U.S. Secretary of State something else? And what is the essence of that to have peace in Middle East when most of the countries are trying hard to have that?
This meeting with the Secretary of State of the United States of America and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, along with the other regional actors, it signals a desire for a coordinated Arab effort to pressurize Israel into a meaningful negotiations and to prevent further destabilization, which could have a spillover effect into Egypt and Qatar and many other states, Jordan as well. And of course, they do not want any kind of effort that could hinder the peace and stability of the region. So they want to prevent the violence. While the diplomatic efforts of these key regional actors reflect a desire to end the violence and avoid a broader regional war, especially between Israel and Iran. But unfortunately, Israel's internal politics and its own security orientation, particularly under Netanyahu, remain a significant barrier to the immediate de-escalation, because we have discussed so many times in your program that Netanyahu has this idea that if this war would be over, the political career of the Netanyahu would be undermined and he would face severe challenges. So he would never want to de-escalate, or he would not promote any peace effort. Moreover, I think without the strong leverage of the US, it will be more challenging to bring Israel to the negotiating table, and US has the leverage to utilize it, and they can pressurize the Israel. And I think the US do not want the escalation at the moment. Because that would be repercussion, that could have challenges for the US at the same time also, because at the moment they don't want to drag into a wider regional conflict. So I think they should use their leverage, but unfortunately the timing of this conflict is very critical at the moment, because of the upcoming election in the US. There is the uncertainty, and Israel wanted to take advantage of this uncertainty. So they are becoming more and more violent and to escalate the situation before the finalization of the election or the outcome of the election.
Right, your point well taken. Ali, illegitimate state of Israel once again ordered millions of innocent and besieged people in northern Gaza to move towards south. It's fifth or sixth displacement which is happening right now. Experts rang alarm bells that Israeli military siege, the ground and air attacks on northern Gaza is according to the so-called general's plan, and could be a roadmap for complete ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians. Israel is now wiping them out. It is first step to depopulate Gaza. Is it so?
Well, as soon as this military operation in the north of Gaza Strip was started, the Israeli military forced these Palestinians living in Beth Hanun, Beth Lahia, Jabalia refugee camp and Jabalia city to just relocate to other parts of Gaza and empty this area. And the reason cited for this was actually that they wanted to destroy the regrouped Palestinian resistance factions which they had regrouped in northern Gaza. Well, it is true that this part of Gaza is very important, strategically very important for Israel, and there are several reasons for it. But what we can infer from what happened in the Knesset's Foreign Affairs Security Committee, where this famous retired General Eland, he gave this general plan, which is dubbed as the general plan, where he stated that for Sinwar, land and dignity both matter, and with this maneuver you can take both from him. So I think the reasons I'd say that Gaza city and this northern part of Gaza, it is very important. It is the administrative seat, it is the political seat of power, and then it has all the important infrastructure of the Gaza Strip. It also has several natural resources like the marine gas field in the north of Gaza. So Israel would like to secure this area, and then it is the site of the Jabalia camp, the largest of the refugee camps, and we know that the first intifada started from this area. So to secure Gaza with the perspective of Israel, I think it would be very important. But then we see the statement of National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who has been advocating again and again to adopt policies that would forcefully evacuate this Gaza Strip and force the Palestinians
and
to
have
just
voluntarily,
voluntarily evacuate
Gaza,
this area.
definitely.
So that is what they have been doing through starvation, through bombing their hospitals, that they have been trying to depopulate Gaza. And this is the continuation of that plan and that dream of Netanyahu, where they want to depopulate Gaza and then have some other plans for it, maybe a Jewish population in that, or maybe some other occupants of this area. But it is a step in that direction.
When we are talking about the Knesset, that resolution that was passed about that Palestinian, independent Palestinian state is going to be the threat for their security and sovereignty. So it means that they don't want any sort of Palestine, but this is unfortunate really. HAMZA, illegitimate state of Israel, is now eliminating resistant movement leaders since more than 50 years. Al-Jihad al-Islami group founder Fateh Shikaki killed in Malta in 1995. Then in 2004 we have seen Hamas founder the Sheikh Ahmad Yassin murdered, and in 2015 Hezbollah senior military commander Ahmad Mughniya, and he was assassinated. Now Hamas and Hezbollah leaders like Ismail Haniya, Hassan Nasrallah, Yahya Sinwar, and just yesterday there is another killing. So what Israel wants, the expansion of its territory, whether they are not inviting any other huge disaster in entire region.
Well, obviously they are looking for expansion of territory, that is clear. But this is the Israel's way of conducting warfare. This is their art of warfare, because they believe that by eliminating the leaders, they can reduce the resistance. And it has most of the time been proved as counterproductive. But recently, when they assassinated Syed Hassan Nasrallah, the ranks of Hezbollah, they were feeling demotivated for time being, because their entire chain of command was killed until the Iranians launched decisive missile strike of around 180 missiles and targeted their military bases, which actually helped the Hezbollah ranks to regain trust in Iranian leadership and finally start their resistance again. Now, as far as the leaders are concerned, the Israelis have eliminated all those leaders with whom they were conducted negotiations. Now, only 2 countries in the 21st century are doing such things, assassinating. India, which is doing assassinations in Canada, and then we have
not only in Canada, we have just saw that it's Canada, it's United States, it's UK, it's Pakistan, it's Nepal, it's Bangladesh, it's Sri Lanka.
And Israel is doing that in Middle East. Now, as far as your question is concerned about passion dying, I believe the passion is never going to die, but the resistance will keep on getting weaker. And the reason for that is that the Palestinian resistance have limited ammunition and they have limited manpower. Unless and until there is an external force which is going to help them, I think the resistance will keep on getting weaker and weaker. And then
your point well taken. Ali, what you think, as we are discussing, Hezbollah sustained resistance too long as allied forces checked their supply routes, like Gaza, Israel replicating collective punishment policy on Lebanon as well, cutting off or destroying Lebanese remaining economy, which is already in a dwindling situation. Airports, the ports, hospitals, institutions, different industries, housing, food, water supplies, hospitals, try to dry up the sources and the logistic means. So far, Israeli brutality claimed at least more than 2,400 lives in Lebanon and displaced more than 1.3 million of the people. Now Israel is calling for settlements in the South Lebanon. What it means?
What we can infer from how Israel has acted before this, I think that the main objective of Israel is not containing Hamas or Hezbollah actually. It keeps on bleeding these organizations, but what is the true objective of Israel is expanding the regime and destabilizing the region, and most importantly, to directly draw in the United States into this war in the Middle East.
This is not the self-defense war, but it's a war for expansion.
From the Israeli perspective, it is a very warped up concept of self-defense. I already once mentioned that Israel feels threatened by each and every Middle Eastern state. So this does not mean that you can obliterate every state on the earth. Even if outside of Middle East, Israel will feel threatened from any other state for its national security, Israel would advocate obliterating it. So now Israel is just expanding its arm in the south of Lebanon as well. It intends to do on other parts as well, and its ground operation has not been very successful. It intends to establish some settlements in the South Lebanon, but when it comes to ground operation, because Hezbollah is quite a military power, when we say they were not very formidable in response to the airstrikes because it is a non-state actor and it could not sustain the airstrikes as well. But when it comes to ground invasion by Israel, they have put up a fight. So this intention of putting up settlements in South Lebanon, it will destabilize the region further, and it would spiral out the war out of the region as well. It can just spiral out of Israel, Gaza, and the region. And that is the Israeli intention, I think. It is not about containing Hamas or Hezbollah. If it was
it's
their
beyond
intention.
That.
Yeah,
it's
it is
beyond that. Your point well taken. Dr. SAIRA, how do you see the possibility of Israel's retaliation to the Iran's October 1st missile attack, especially after the US leaked document that suggests Israel is preparing for the possible attack, naval installations, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, or besieged militia headquarters, nuclear or oil facilities might be the targets, while on the contrary, Iran is determined to have destructive response to Israel. If retaliation would be there, while US President Joe Biden during his Germany visit told media that he had an understanding of how and when Israel would respond.
The possibility of Israel's retaliation is highly plausible, especially in the light of the US leaked documents, which suggest that Israel is preparing for a targeted strike. I think we discussed this in your previous program also, that what would be the likely targets of Israel towards Iran. So of course, they would try to target the high-value Iranian military and strategic assets, which includes the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps headquarters, naval installations, oil facilities. Some people predict that they might attack the nuclear facilities also, but I doubt that because, again, the US involvement, like the Joe Biden has given the indication that they are in coordination with the Israelis. So I doubt about the nuclear facility. Of course, that is the major thing for the Israel to, eradicate the deterrent power of the Iran by eradicating its nuclearization. But I don't think that there is possibility, or the US would allow Israel to do that. But there could be other oil facilities also, but that would also not in the interest of many Western states, and because it would block the world oil stabilization also. But these are the critical points of Iranian military infrastructure, as well as other critical points for its infrastructure. For Israel, it is important to restore its deterrent power, while they also, of course, want to prevent Iran from gaining influence in the region over Israel. Again, I would stress that, and I believe that the attack would ensure affirmative power of Israel, but it will be contained at the same time. because US will likely to advise Israel for restraint to prevent an uncontrollable regional conflict. While US also want to maintain its strategic interest in the region, including stabilization of the oil markets, containment of Iran, its military expansions containment, and without being dragged into the broader regional war, I believe.
What do you think about the leak related to the possible Israeli attack on Iran? Whether it's possible hacking or really a leak, as the Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI) is investigating? Was it done deliberately to stop Israel from attacking Iran, to gain more time, at least till the US elections, or what was the reason behind, as this leaked classified document has publicly revealed that Israeli plans and even possession of the nuclear weapons, and authenticity of this document was also not denied by the United States?
Well, you rightly pointed out that there are two dimensions of looking into this matter of the leak, but it raises significant questions, particularly about its origin and intent. At the moment, it is unclear, and the investigation is going on about whether it's intentional or deliberate leak, or whether it's the hacking. But there are potential reasons behind the deliberate leak. One is the prevention of escalation before US elections, as I already mentioned, that they do not want to indulge into the wider regional war. So, for that matter, the US government, the elements within the US governments or intelligence community, they would like to stall Israeli action towards, before the US election. Second is the public pressure, the world public pressure to avoid the conflict, the expansion of the conflict. Moreover, the deliberate leak would also have the effect on undermining the Israel's strategic advantage, because its military doctrine relies heavily on the surprise and precision. So, with their plan now public, it is much harder for Israel to carry out such an operation without Iran or its allies being on high alert. So, this diminishes the effectiveness of any preemptive strike Israel may have been planning. And the next could be the signaling to the Iran. The leak could also serve as a signal to Iran, and to give them the signal that while Israel may have the intent to strike, the US is still attempting to mediate behind the scenes.
Dr. SAIRA, that is very important point. Signaling to Iran. HAMZA, Iran is also signaling to the West, as Iranian media claimed about the planning of the first ever possible Iran-Saudi Arabia joint military exercises in the Red Sea. It's been long time, at least more than 4 decades, that both countries never held or never engaged in any type of the military exercises. As just Iran and Saudi Arabia resumed their diplomatic relations, what means by such exercises? And what means when it is in Red Sea, if so, as this critical movement?
First of all, I heard this news, I read this news around 3 or 4 days ago, making rounds on social media as well. But this news is still unverified, because I'm still waiting for Arabian media to verify it, either these exercises are going to take place or not. Secondly, the Israeli propaganda machine is 24/7 trying to prove this news wrong. And they're also working on sabotaging these exercises by causing friction between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Yes. But if these exercises do happen, I'm sure Egypt, Russia and China would also be part of these exercises. And it would be a historical event, because for the first time after 4 decades, Iran and Saudi Arabia would be together conducting these military exercises. Moreover, it would be a very positive sign for the stability of Middle East, because we know the sectarian warfare which had been ongoing in Middle East.
Conduct of exercises would be there or not, but this is again a strategic signaling to the United States, to the Western powers, and also to Israel as well.
Also to Israel as well. And we know that Arabian states have categorically declared that they would not allow Israel to violate their airspace, and the sovereignty to target the Iranian strategic assets.
Definitely. You are talking about on that, when we are talking about the Western countries, Ali, many Western countries, especially the Israeli apartheid regime, believe that eliminating the leadership of the Palestinians and Lebanese resistance groups like Hamas and Hezbollah would pave the way for expansion from Nile to Euphrates, means to attain Zionist ideology of Greater Israel, as Israel don't recognize borders. Its soldiers have the Greater Israel badges. Their leaders are claiming for a Greater Israel, while Western powers wants that as well. It looks like, because the support which is there for Israel, it looks like that it's a wider plan. Is it like that?
Well, what we understand from the history of humankind, that resistance cannot be killed by killing individuals.
Yeah, definitely.
Resistance is an idea, and you cannot just kill it with bullets and bombs. From what we see, what has been happening between Hamas and Israel, and even between Hezbollah and Israel, we see that they assassinated Sheikh Ahmad Yassin, then they assassinated Ibrahim Rantisi, Ahmad
Yes.
Jabari, Hania, Sanwar, everybody.
It's a long list.
And it's a
really.
question that did it subside? Did the resistance subside? No. Each year it emerges with more strength, with more force, just as it emerged on 7th October. So the Western countries' expectation of just subsiding this resistance from the Palestinian side by killing their leaders and realizing this dream of Greater Israel, I think that is not grounded. And what would Israel do by expanding itself? The territory it has, it cannot secure it. It is always complaining about living in a very vulnerable environment. And what would it do by expanding itself from Euphrates to Nile? It would be just overstretching, I think, and it would be an attempt at overstretching, and it would meet more resistance from different parts of the region as well. So this is not grounded, and any expectation from any Western country, it just unveils the hypocrisy they have. On one hand, they claim to be the sole flag bearers of this two-state solution. They say that they want a Palestinian state for Palestinian people as well, and they just recognize Israel's right to self-defense because they believe that Israel has been attacked again and again by non-state actors and Palestinian groups. But on the other hand, they support such expansionist ideas of Israel as well. But I think that Israel's expansion or any attempt at expansion would be at a very great cost, and it would be very detrimental for peace in the world as well, along with the peace in Middle East.
You're right. You're right. Your point well taken. Dr. SAIRA, many believe that till the United States elections, as you were rightly pointing out in other response, through intensified brutal military operations, Israel intends to draw a buffer zone and shield its borders but to ensure that its rivals, especially Hamas and Hezbollah, completely vanish or cannot regroup, and might go to halt its military invasion. But occupying south of Lebanon, complete Gaza, and the portion of the West Bank, which was already annexed from the West Bank, would be the Palestine then, and where the Greater Israel or the Greater Middle East would be encouraged by the United States?
Of course, Israel do not want the two-state solution of the Palestinian state, and they want the Greater Israel also. However, if Israel expands its occupation to the large portion of Gaza and West Bank, it could severely restrict the viability of a future of Palestinian state, which generally, if we see the advocacy of the United States about this matter, they have advocated many times about the two-state solution. So this might lead to the further displacement of the Palestinians also, and that would increase the tensions across the Arab world. The concept of the Greater Israel is very important for the Israel because they want to have the greater influence by controlling over the neighboring regions to enhance its security and to consolidate its influence as well. But such moves would likely trigger further resistance from Hamas and Hezbollah. Like my colleague has just mentioned that you can kill the leaders, but you cannot kill the idea. So the resistance would be going on. So there would be more resistance from Hamas and Hezbollah and all the groups of the axis of the resistance. That would lead towards a prolonged regional conflict rather than stability. So the US might tacitly support some level of Israeli military action, particularly in terms of maintaining security. But whether US would support a greater Israel or permanent occupation of Palestinian territories is less certain, I believe, because US has been, like I just mentioned, that they have used this rhetoric that they want to have the two-state solution. Uh, uh, and another thing is about the current US administration's primary goal may be to avoid the larger regional war, particularly one involving Iran. But ultimately, the finalization of the US support would be more clear in the post US election scenario.
Your point well taken, Dr. Saira. Hamza, what would you think that we are talking a lot about the West, especially the United States, the Britain, the European Union support to Israel, and Israel is violating international law and all sorts of norms since decades. And now it crossed all limits. So it's just a support or a bigger game, bigger game plan under the Western geopolitical agenda for entire Middle East to carve a new world order?
Yes, it is basically a bigger agenda, as you have already said. Basically supporting Israel means gaining influence in Middle East. We know that Middle East contains strategic resources, and to basically have control over those strategic resources, it is very important for the West, and particularly for US, to support Israel. And we know, using hybrid warfare, Israelis have already destroyed or weakened all the neighboring states which were posing a threat to Israel. And moreover, United States and the Western countries are using Israel to counter the growing influence of Iran as well. We remember that back during the era of Raza Shah Pahlavi, for as long as he remained loyal to the Western, he was supported. But the moment he started thinking about the Iranian interest, the support was gone, and finally the Islamic Revolution took over and he was thrown away. As far as the world order is concerned, I believe the world order was, it's my opinion, it was already established, it was already implemented back in 1917 during the Balfour Declarations.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the Britishers actually promised that they are going to provide a Jewish homeland.
I'm so sorry to cut you, but we have run short of time.
Okay.
So very last and very brief, Ali, BRICS Summit and their final communique. They have called for a ceasefire in Gaza and West Bank, denounced Israeli attacks against the humanitarian operations, the facilities, personnels, and distribution points. What do you think, how much impetus in this statement, and would seriously pave the way for lasting peace in the Middle East?
Theoretically speaking, in conflict and resolution, we say that a conflict is resolved when both parties have some interest in the resolution of conflict. But here we see very diverging interest. On one side of the world, there is China, Russia, and all these countries in BRICS. They collectively call for ceasefire.
Except India.
Except India, obviously. They have been supporting, they have been even
weapons to
sending
Israel
soldiers
and
to
all
the
that.
Israeli
Yes,
defense
soldiers
forces. But on the other side, we see the United States and United States supported Zionist regime in Israel. They have no stake, they have no interest in a peaceful resolution of this conflict. So whatever the responsible behavior by China and Russia is, even if China goes to further lengths, uniting all the Palestinian factions as well.
Definitely,
The
you're
United States
absolutely
and
right,
Israel
because the
have
China and Russia
interest
and
as
even
well.
the all BRICS members except India can play a role in that, really. Thank you very much, Ali, for being here in the studios. Thank you very much, Hamza. And thank you very much, Dr. Saira, for being with us online. Thank you very much for your very valid and candid contribution as well. Viewers, you have just listened to our panelists. It is important that it is no doubt that the Israeli, illegitimate state of Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Zionist regime might be some of the expansionist plans and whatever they are doing right now a destructive Middle East, what they are foreseeing. But on the other hand, the international community is thinking something else. And China and Russia has a very important role to play in this one, because peace in the Middle East would serve the world. Otherwise, there would be a large-scale war is waiting for all the countries of the region and also for the world. Muslim world has to play a real role in that as well. Israel is unfortunately eliminating all those resistant leaders to pave the way for escalation and expansionist designs. This is not the war of self-defense, but also the expansion into its territory, which, because Israel don't believe in borders and the sovereign states as well. So Israel is preparing for a response also to Iran, as the US classified leaked documents suggest. But the thing is that the world is actually calling for restraint, and US want restraint, because this is ultimately going to be a disastrous step, as Iran is also ready for retaliation. As far as the whole conflict suggests, that it is, if it is going out of control, it is going to be a wider war, which is not in favor of any of the world region, because whole of the world and even whole of the international community is already suffering from lots of wars and conflicts. We have to resolve this issue, and issue will only be resolved through a sovereign and independent Palestinian state. This is today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz Nasr.